Okay.
All right, welcome to The Buzz with Dr. B. I'm so excited to have you all share with us on this Tuesday. We call Tuesdays Terrific Tuesdays with Dr. B. It's The Buzz, y'all, and I've got a dope sister with me on this evening. I have my sister, my soror, Dr. Adrienne Moore. Dr. Moore, tell the people, hey.
Hey y'all, how are you?
A humble soul. I absolutely love her.
I
And
love
so,
you too.
everybody, I'm telling, see, we love each other. Y'all feel the love. Everybody feel the love. We have such an amazing guest with us on this evening. I'm so excited and I'm just thrilled to have you to be able to spend some time. You're busy. How old is your oldest?
My oldest son is 26. He'll be
26, and your youngest?
and my youngest is 19 months.
Can y'all believe that? So we got a span. The lady is busy, okay? Mother of three,
Yes, 3. And I
and
have
you
one
have
on his way to college. He's on his
one on the way to college.
yes, Texas Southern University. He'll
I,
be there in September.
so you got to tell me what kind of water you drinking.
I'm gonna say sleep. I sleep well, but we do believe in Ozarka here.
So Ozarka, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you all see behind me, I have my book.
Yes.
And so Dr. Moore has a book called The Adventures of Kemet, Croc in the Cape.
Yep. Kemet Croc and his
So,
cake.
oh wow.
Mhm.
And so I won't tell you how old I am, but I will tell you that I love reading this book. I don't have any children and I read the book. So this is my copy of the book. I kind of had to get with my little goddaughter the other day because she thought she was gonna pack the book home. So
Oh,
I guess we're gonna have to get her a signed copy of her own book. And
oh,
so we'll make sure
yay.
that she gets a copy, okay? That way we stay kind of on, good terms with each other.
Right.
Everybody, I just want to tell you once again, welcome to The Buzz with Dr. B. Of course, our special guest tonight is Dr. Adrienne Moore. Dr. Moore, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're an educator, you are an author, as I've already talked about. You are a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, as you said before, I'm a mother of 3. I love my kids to death. I mean, I had another one this late on. I am also a sister. I love my sisters. I love my organization, my sorority as well. But I also have 3 other sisters that are my blood sisters who I
Wow.
love to death. They help. Look, they keep me where I need to be. They keep me on track. So I love my sister. I love my family, my mom, my dad. I grew up in a large family, and we grew up with a lot of love and support. And
Mhm.
so in saying that, that just helped me to be the person that I am today. My friends, I also have a group of friends that I have been friends with all of my life, pretty much. And I just kind of stay grounded with the people that I keep around me. I also am a full-time teacher at Jarvis Christian College. I just started there. So I do stay busy. And during this pandemic, I decided to write a book, even though I had the vision of the book pre-pandemic. I just saw fit to go ahead and manifest that vision that I saw. And when you get the book, as Dr. B said, like the book, I actually have hardcovers copies, and in the hardcover with the flap, you'll actually see where this vision like manifested with Kemet and this cape. He actually went to take his first year pictures when he turned 1, and this child lit up in front of the camera. He was just amazing. He was swinging his cape on his back like he was like a hero, and he had this crown. I ordered him a crown. So he had this crown on, and it was just like he was king and he was royal. But his name is Kemet, which means Egypt. It's the original name for Egypt. It means black people, land of black people, land of the dark people. So with that, with his name, I was just like, I have to tell his story. children need, we as Black people need to be empowered, and kids need to be empowered, because this child got it. He already has it at one. You know, he knows who he is, and he knows that he's filled with love. And I was just like, I have to share the love that he has and the love that we have for him. And so that's what inspired me to write the book. But me myself, I'm not anything. I'm everything that I am is just my family and just being encouraged and just being around people who love me. So that's really me. I'm a homebody. I like to party. I like to enjoy life. I'll say that. But for the most part, I'm a homebody. I love my family. I love being around people who love me. And so that's pretty much.
And what you described, you talked about community, basically, communing with one another. And that is so important right now. And I think that's what makes a healthy child. With you being an educator, you talk. One of the things that I read about you was your love for the historically Black colleges and universities, and you are now at Jarvis Christian College, but this is not your first your first round with an HBCU. So when did you first get that HBCU flavor?
Let's go back. If we want to go back, I thank Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby for A Different World, because that really made me want to be a part of an HBCU. And so growing up and going to in high school, me and my best friend was like, oh, we want to go to Clark Atlanta. We want to go to Clark Atlanta. But God saw something different. I started my HBCU career and journey at the Wiley College. It taught me so much. Even though I was there for 2 years, I was able to pledge there at Phi chapter, found lifetime friends. I just was at a place where it allowed me, just like you said, community and love. I mean, every Tuesday went to church, you know, vestments. I mean, it was just a community of love that taught us how to love ourselves, and especially having the love for an HBCU. I know the need that we need in our community, and the need of it's not just about the education thing, but the empowerment of being around our own people so we can grow and develop and feed off one another. That's what makes me love HBCUs, and I know that they need to stay. They're a system and an institution that needs to remain forever, because it's a different culture, and like they say, for the culture, that teaches a lot of culture. We have so many people who have created so many different careers, and they started at an HBCU. It started small, but it has grown so big. And I just want to just keep sharing that love and stay in an institute where I know that I was loved and treated like with care. I was treated with care. So
it's such an investment, such a rich, wealthy history. And we see in our HBCUs. I absolutely, I couldn't speak any different than what you already have to my experience at Wiley College. And I'm sure that has been the testimony of those who have attended an HBCU. But, you know, in a different world, in what you're talking about when you talked about Mr. Bill Cosby, I absolutely love the man. Because what he did, he took his platform, as you are doing, he took his platform and he gave us a taste. The scripture says, oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. So for me, my job as a preacher is to make sure that I give people a taste and they get to him for themselves. And so you took the taste and you said, I want the dinner. I want the breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the HBCU. And so that's very, very important. You didn't just matriculate to an HBCU, but you went back to Wiley College a couple of years ago as a faculty administrator?
Yes, I was faculty as well as an administrator at Wiley for 6 years. I was there for 6 years. Yes, ma'am, I did. And I also was at Grambling, which is also my alma mater. I graduated with my master's from Grambling and my PhD from Jackson. So, and I attended TSU. So I have been to several of the HBCUs. I have been there. Hi, yes, I was there. But I also did attend a PWI. I did attend and graduate from UMass Amherst. And it also taught me some things too, but the love that I have for HBCUs will never be replaced. Never.
what drove you to go to the University of Massachusetts?
Back to family. Back to
Back to
family.
family.
Yes, family. My mom actually, I'm originally from Shreveport, Louisiana. So I'm originally from Shreveport. So my mom actually received a job in Massachusetts in '87. And so my mom uprooted myself and my sisters to Western Massachusetts, to Northampton, Florence, Massachusetts. And so we stayed there for 7 years. And then my grandmother became sick. And so we moved back home. And so that's how I finished my high school, a year of my junior high and high school back down here in Shreveport. And so my mom decided to go back to Massachusetts. And I had my son when I was young. So my mom took my son with her. And she was like, sweetie, you going with your baby. You're not going to stay at Wiley and have fun like you think. You are mother first. And so I thank my mom for that. And so, and because I can't take away what I learned at UMass as well. But my mom, she uprooted me and said, you got to go. So that's how I wound up at UMass. And it was an amazing experience as well too. It complimented because because of what I learned at Wiley, I was able to go there. And I mean, as big as UMass was or is, UMass is a city within a town. I was there and they knew me.
So do you feel like, of course they did. So do you feel like Wiley College gave you the confidence? I know for me, every summer, one of our sorors, Annette F. Okai, Dr. Okai, would, when I first came in, she said to me, she was like, okay, this is what you need to do. Kind of like, didn't ask me, told me this is what you need to do. So I was like, okay. So every summer there was an internship. And so I went to, and so in the internships, we were different from everybody else, but she made it essential for me to do those, to get out of the HBCU setting, go into the real, as we call it, the real world setting, because we would come out of a different world, go into this world. Right. And she felt it was very important for me to know how to be. Exactly. When I came from, when I would leave the HBCU, she says it's going to be important that you take what you learned there and you immediately start applying that to a different place, if you would. Right. So for you, you were able to do that prior to graduation by going to UMass.
Yes, I was able to. It was just like it was meant to be. I transitioned, and one thing was like, listening to classmates and everyone else, oh, you're gonna go there and they're not gonna accept any of your credits. I went to UMass, and because of the curriculum, and shout out to one of my classmates, upperclassmate, James Killam, who stayed making my schedule for me, made sure I did not take anything less than 12 credit hours. He always made me take 15 to 18 credit hours. So I was able to transition to UMass, and they took every credit I had except for one, and that was freshman seminar. So I stayed on track, and I stayed on the curriculum, matriculating as I should, and taking the courses that I needed. They took every credit. I graduated. I didn't have to do any summer school, extra semester, anything. I graduated on time, as well as I had an internship. I worked at a major nonprofit media, media something, but they do social justice movies, videos, documentaries. So I was able to work with one of the main professors at the university. I had a job. I just fell in because I was taught, and I was taught well at Wiley before I left, and I transitioned knowing what I can do. And thanks Katrina Cooks, because I work for you too. And she stuck on us. So,
that's another valuable point. You always have a family with the HBCU. Right. That you can always, hey, I'm moving to X, Y, and Z. Who do you know? If you're not there, who do you know there? Set me up. And that's what I love. You talk about something that dispels a myth. A lot of times people believe that if they've attended an HBCU, that their credits are not going to be accepted somewhere else. But you got to try. Right. You got to try for yourself, and you got to know for yourself. So I love that you said that. You're being a little bit modest. So I want to get right into it. Your doctorate degree, Before you got your doctorate, now you were at TSU and you
Yes.
earned about 56 credits there.
Yes.
And that was in administrative justice.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And then from there, you went on to Jackson State where you got your doctorate. Now
yes.
tell us about this, because I'm medical field.
Mm-hmm.
Urban higher education. Tell us what that means.
Urban higher education, basically, it prepares you to be in administration. It
Mm-hmm.
takes, I mean, I'm not going to just say Black people or African American people, but it prepares our people to be in administration positions in higher education. And so
Wow.
you basically learn the history of higher education. You learn about schools that stay open, schools that close down. You learn so many different things about higher ed, and it's not just about HBCUs. That's why the name of the course, the name of the program is Urban Higher Education. And so I learned so much at that institution. I mean, I feel with what I already had prior to, in my work experience, piggybacking with and marrying and like piggybacking with what I had in the workforce. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't change any of those things that I learned there, but it definitely prepares you for administration in higher ed. So that's the purpose of that program.
Yeah. So you wanted to be an educator, and I see that you really are passionate about millennials, yes. Gen Z. You're yes. very passionate about the integration of social media with yes. higher ed. You mm-hmm. also have a passion for juvenile justice, social yes. injustice, and juvenile recidivism, which yes. really, pastorally for me, I'm very passionate about those things. And yes. so it really is an honor for me to be able to talk to you about those things. And of course, I know that we've talked about your book, but your book kind of lays a foundation for girls and boys, I would yes. say, but I'm especially happy. I have a soft heart when it comes to boys because I see the pipeline to prison. Yes. I see what happens. I've heard people say, boys, sit down. We kill the passion in our boys because we don't understand them. One of the things that Miss Patricia McLean said, Dr. McLean's, Pastor McLean's daughter said, civil rights activist from Shreveport. She says this all the time, that a lot of the times people just don't understand that child. And human growth and development courses across the nation aren't geared toward the little Black boy. But you've written something here that I think that we can use in the education of our boys and make them feel, even our girls, make them feel yes. very strong about who they are. And I'll get into some of that in just a little bit. I'm an advocate for adoption and standing up for children. I've worked yes. with the local juvenile detention center. So in that advocacy, I tend to kind of work with Keto and look at things. You have written a book that I think helps that little boy, helps that little girl to know I'm a king or I'm a queen.
Right.
So you've crowned your son. What can we do as educators? What can we do as mentors? What can we do, and when should we do it to start laying that foundation? Because how old is your son? He's 19 months?
19 months.
And you mentioned earlier on that he already knows who he is.
He does. He already knows that this is his book. He knows that this is his book. He knows who he is. Mm-hmm. And I think that's because, it starts for a lot of mothers, for me, it started in the womb. It started early on when we knew that Kemet was coming. And, we just decided, I heard the name, my whole family, all of my mom's grandkids' names start with a K. And I heard the name Kemet and it just resonated with me. And I was like, that's his name. And when I found out the meaning I was listening to a song. I was listening to Nas song. And so Nas, you know, he starts off the song and he say, Kemet, Black Royal King, you know, and then he gives the background of what Egypt is, you know, Egypt, the original name for Kemet, the original name for Egypt. And so I was like, that's his name. And I just knew immediately that was going to be his name. And so, and just every time I just saw this baby before he came, I was just like, he's going to be royal. Like this one, you know, like every child, you know, is different. But I was like, I think this little boy's gonna be rich. It just, I mean, he's gonna be raw. He's gonna have possess a lot of power. He's gonna have it, and I just felt it in when I was pregnant with him, when he was in my womb. So, and I went through a lot having him. I actually I was high risk pregnancy. I was actually in the hospital for 2 months. Couldn't go home for Thanksgiving. He was lucky he came right before Christmas. His birthday is December the 21st. And so it's just like everything about him, I just knew it then. But for other parents, like reading this book, it starts early. You know, you have to tell your kids early. I did it with Kamari. I did it with Khalil. We do it with my sisters, do it with all of their kids. We start early, teaching them how to spell their names, you know, just letting him know, you know, you are loved, you are a beautiful brown boy. I mean, we just talk to him, you know, even though Kemet is very, very active. And so my mom was like, you got to keep him busy because, like you said, you can't take that spirit away from him because he'll lose it. Because, you know, even though sometimes I'll be like, Dad, would you stop? You know, but at the end of the day, he's just developing into himself. Like he thinks he can box. Like literally, he has boxing gloves, and I bought him a boxing bag so he can stop punching on us. But he's like, he just has his own personality already at 9 months. But for parents, I think that is something that you have to start early on, and that's why I felt the need for this book for me to write this book. And I thought that it was very meaningful, and it was a time for it because you have to start now. And so in starting now, I wanted to give other kids a tool to like start developing themselves and developing their self-esteem. And even at that, like at the end of this book, I thought it was so important. And shout out to Wiley, speaking of Wiley, my author Santana, he actually went to Wiley with me. So I mean, full circle. Yes, he actually graduated. Well, he didn't graduate, he left, but he also attended Wiley with me. So like we said, community. But anyway, I felt that it was very, very much important to actually put hieroglyphics at the end of this book. So I took the flap off. But and so initially I wanted to put something at the bottom. So every child that get this book, they could actually write their name in with the hieroglyphics at the end.
So you know that every adult who gets the book is probably gonna write her name with the hieroglyphics.
I hope so. I hope so. Look, I'll be like, send me a picture of your name in hieroglyphics.
Right. It's for every reader of your book.
Yes.
It's very interesting, though. And it's amazing that we're having this dialogue because I know in the state of Louisiana, we have a lot of incarceration. Yes. And the sentencing is not, I mean, the length of sentencing, I cannot, you know, you can't imagine.
In the world, we have the most prisoners in the world, number of prisoners in the world.
So the work that you're doing, and it may seem like it's crazy for us to relate a children's book to the social injustice, but like you said, it has to start early. And we see that in the word of God, that it talks of Jeremiah, in my mother's belly, you know, the Lord began to speak. And I love the fact that you're speaking that you were talking about how you knew that something was special about your son. And so Shakespeare says it, what's in a name? And so you gave your child a name. It's important what we call our children. Another context of the word of God talks about Jabez. Jabez thought that his name, or Jabez thought that his name was terrible. And he just was like, you know, my name means pain, but it's what you do. It's also a part of what you do. So, you know, when we start to, I know growing up, everybody was kind of like Beryl. And I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna make this name great. That's
It
what I'm
is
going
great.
to do.
Beryl, let's not go there. I hated my name, Adrienne. My name, I mean, I couldn't get enough. And you know me,
Absolutely.
Everyone, I would not answer to Adrienne at all. My name was Nikki. Call me Nikki. Do not call me Adrienne. I despise the name, and now I thank God for it. It's it was the name that was meant for me.
We
It was
start
the
to embrace who we
yes,
are. We start
yes.
to embrace. We start to embrace. So you talked a little bit about your sons already. You're kind of ahead of me on this. I love it. Um, I love that when we talk about recidivism, we there's something that we have to do, and we want to tell people. I think one of the things we do is we have these conversations assuming that people who are listening know what we're talking about. So when we're talking to juvenile our juvenile recidivism, we're talking about the rate at which children return back to detention centers, or the rate at which they return back to juvenile prisons. Juvenile prisons are there, and we want to make that distinct. We want to make the distinction between what is prison and what is jail. So jail is kind of like your local.
Yes.
It's where you are locally. It's for, something that's not so severe. But when we're starting to talk about juvenile prisons, it's almost oxymoronic. What are we doing when are we taking responsibility to rehab? I know for me, I graduated, my boast totally in the Lord, but I graduated at the top of my high school class. But I can tell you that I didn't have good sense. I mean, I can truly tell you. And if your smartest people in your school and in your parish or your county don't have good sense, that tells me that there is more that we need to be doing for our children. And so when you can have in a state like Louisiana, I think Louisiana is one of 9 states where our children at 17 cannot vote, they cannot serve on a jury, but yet they can go to adult prison.
Yes.
We have a problem, Dr. Moore.
We do have a problem. We do have a problem. And that's one reason why I thought the book was important. I'm going back to the book. And what makes it important is, as parents, because it's not just the children. We have to go there. It's the parents too.
Right.
And so the purpose of the book, as you can see, you did see me in the book. You did see his brothers in the book. This is also a sequel. So you will see his father in the books as well. So you will see family. But in saying that, it's the parents, so I see, and that's something that's been pining on me, and something I know that I really need to work on. And it's something that I started actually this year as well. But you have to, we can't always think that parent just because someone had a child that they understand what it is to be a parent. So in saying that, we also have to do things that will assist and help and guide the parents too. So even though we might be opening up all these head starts to develop the child, but we also need to include programs that assist in parenting and help developing these parents, because a lot of the issues that we have going on is because of parents who aren't being parents, they're being friends. And we say this all the time, but there is a lot of truth in this. You cannot just be okay, that's fine and cool if you're going to be your friend, your child's friend, but you also have to be a parent, because where is that child going to look to for guidance? And then a lot of these kids are looking for guidance from outside people who are taking advantage of them. And that's why they're in these different situations, or they're taking guidance from other children, and they're getting caught up in situations that they normally won't get caught up in. We can't. So I think they go together. It's not just raising the child and focusing on just solely on the child. When you see that the child is in the system, we also need to take a look at parenting, not taking the child away from the parent, but hey, let's do some things to help that parent be a better parent. Because a lot of times that's the issue. And sometimes you might need to remove the child and the parent from each other, because that might just be something that the person is not really capable of doing, being a parent. And so I think a lot of the issue with a lot of the things, but we find kids that have a great household. At least we think from the outside it's a great household, but there's things going on within those households that's causing these children to run to the streets and carry on and do things that cause them to be caught up in the system. But I think that we need to bring those things together again, parenting, where communities parent, you know, like you couldn't do anything wrong in the neighborhood because everybody on that street, they're gonna get with you. I mean, that's how it was when we were growing up, you know. And so it's a community thing. It's a whole thing. But we also have to look at the fact that in Louisiana we are so poor. This is a poor state, and there's no reason why we are so poor when we have so many natural resources. We're running our young adults. I mean, hey, yeah, we have the millennials here, but hey, y'all forgot about Gen X. We here, you know, like I never hear anyone. It's the baby boomers, then it's the millennials, then it's Gen Z now. Y'all forgot Gen X. We are here. And it's like, and a lot of us are leaving the state because we don't see any prosperity here. And that's sad.
Also, we have to learn how to do, and I pray that I do this well, but there are some things that my season is over. And I need to understand when my season is over for doing, and now my time is to enrich. That is one of my issues with a lot of our politics, a lot of our leaders. You know, why do we have to be buried for someone else to take the torch?
Right.
Because now we can't give to them what they need. So why don't, you know, retirement and making sure that we invest into the next generation. And I talked about being a storyteller. We've talked about that before. You know, we need to be able to hear those audible stories and not, you know, here hoping that we can have some kind of connection to our ancestors. Why can't we talk to our ancestors while they are alive? One of the things I wanted to read here was that the national recidivism rates for juveniles do not exist. So we know that national recidivism rates don't exist. However, each state is responsible for putting together and showing that rearrest rates for youth. And we see that within 1 year of release from an institution, the average recidivism rate is about 55%. We see that, you know, these children are going to go right back to it. So we know my father, God bless his soul, was an educator. And one of the things he used to always speak to was that if my child, he would always say, if my child does something, talk to me about it, because I'm the parent. So I remember coming home one night and my entire class had to write lines. And I'm in 3rd grade, I'm 8 years old, and I'm absolutely, completely afraid of my teacher. And so she said, everybody had better come back to school the next day and have their lines written. And my dad was like, you will not write lines. And I said, well, I can't go to class without it. And so he was like, I am the parent. If you have an issue, then your teacher will take it up with me. But you writing lines is not going to help you when you should be doing something else. We could be having a conversation. And so the next morning he would go into the classroom and he would say to this teacher, that is not going to cause them to act better. And if what you need to do is you need to start talking to parents. And if you have an issue with this child and not with my child, why punish my child? My child has no responsibility here for what some other child has done. So I think we have to get back to, we have in-school suspension. We have where the child is taken out of the learning environment. We have expulsion. We have children going home for out-of-school suspension. That's not doing anything. That's that part of that pipeline. And we don't tend to see that as adults, as people who have had a human growth and development course. What can we do? So one of the things that Dr. Moore, that I've said that we need to talk about on on the buzz is we need to talk about bridging that gap between oppression and opportunity. You talked about Gen X, and I think that's part of the issue. You know, there's a lot of oppression, but you've got a lot of educated people who are oppressed because there's a gap of, you know, where, you know, the oppression and the opportunity are not coming together. You talked about the state of Louisiana is one of those states that's rich in resources, natural resources.
Yes.
But yet the poverty rate and the opportunity for some groups of people is just beyond me. What do you think about trades? Do you think that we should still be teaching our children, our sons, our daughters? You know, you remember a while at college, we had a little setup. You can get your nails done in Dogan.
Right.
You can get your hair done on campus, never leave
Right.
campus. What do you
Right.
think about that?
I think a trade is good because
Mhm.
it's not meant for everyone to go to college. And we have to get back. And that's one thing that me and my sisters and my mom, we talk about all the time. And my dad, he talks about it all the time because my mom and my sisters, we graduated from Booker T. Washington in Shreveport. So my dad brings up the issue all the time of when he was at Booker T, there used to be a laundromat, and they actually taught the students how to do laundry. And he was like, no child in Lakeside who attended BT went to school with dirty clothes, because they had a cleaners. And if you had dirty clothes, you could take your clothes to the cleaners and get your clothes cleaned. Then he talked about the fact that they also taught them auto mechanics, which they did have that when I was there. We did have cosmetology, and we also had the radio station and the TV station. So, and I think my dad did say they also learned bricklaying and all of those things. But see, that's the issue. That's one thing that, because we want to be so educated at times that we forget that there's another part of community building. Yeah. You also need the people who have trades to help the community to grow. So in saying that, we do need the trade schools back at our schools. And we also forget that those programs are taken out of our schools so our communities can look like they look now. Our communities look like they look now because you don't want to go to trade school anymore. They took that out of our schools intentionally. Let's go back. Black Wall Street, our communities were built. Rosewood, we had our own communities. Let's talk about here in Louisiana. Lakeside, Cooper Road, Moortown, our communities had all of these things. We didn't have to go outside of the community to go and shop and do anything else, because, and that's how our dollars stayed within our communities. And now everyone wants to talk about how the Black dollar goes out of our community. Our communities look a mess. They're not going. How can the dollar stay there if we don't have the things that the the resources that we need in order for our community to grow? So in saying yes, trade schools need to be available, because those help create the workers to build houses, construction workers. That's with our people with the diesel CDL licenses and all of these different things. And those are our business owners, and those are the people that's going to keep our community going and bring the wealth back. We have to bring our wealth back. And little do they know, I want to say thank God for, pandemic. I hate that we do have COVID-19, but it also made us as a people become more resourceful and go back, digging back in our bags and relying on ourselves and trying to figure out how we're going to make ends meet because of this pandemic.
Absolutely. And what I've shared with everybody who I come in contact with is that the pandemic is not a crisis, it's a classroom.
Right.
And you've got to be willing to be a student and learn what you need to learn and do what you need to do. Pythagorean's theorem. Somebody had to have the brain for what pi means, but somebody had to build that pyramid. So we had to have the muscle as well. You mentioned something that I've had discussions with other people about. I think with Gen X, our parents had worked so hard and they wanted to see, they had been deprived of the opportunity to be in the classrooms and to learn. They, having the knowledge and not being able to get into college, or, we've heard Congressman John Lewis talk about this.
Right.
When we look at his life, we see this thing. And I think we, like you said, we have been so interested in getting into those avenues that we have forgotten the basic things. I know for me, my confession is my sister, all the girls took home ec. I was like, I am not going to take home ec. I will do this and I will do that because although I'm a girl, I have a brain. So my mind was always, forget that. I can learn that from my grandmother. But it's a blessing to be able to know how to sew, because that saves me now that I'm having to look at how much, look at my month or look at this or prepare in a pandemic. I can say that I know how to sew. I can say that I know how to survive. And I think we have a generation of millennials that may not, while we can take the technology from them and we can learn that piece, a lot of, you talked about our communities. We have to think about home ownership and why it was so important to our ancestors to have homes and to give our children that space. A lot of children, a lot of boys especially, are being raised in apartment complexes. So we have an expectation that they're going to know how to take care of things that they've never had to come up as a problem because they've been able to call a maintenance man.
Right.
So when they have their own, they don't even know what to do with it because they've never had the feel of this is mine, so let me take care of it.
Correct.
So when you talk about those trades, they make such a huge difference. But I want to go back to something you talked about. You talked about parenting. Often I've said that we've got all these programs, I know, in the Shreveport-Bossier area. We've got, and it frustrates me to no end that we have this mentorship program, we've got that. But then I have to stop in my frustration and I have to say, okay, well, if I'm saying we have all this, why aren't the people coming? I said in a meeting maybe 3-4 years ago, and someone was talking about all the things that they had done, but I'm like, and all things that could be done. But I'm like, in all practicality, how is someone who doesn't have a car to get to their doctor's appointment going to get to the resources that they need? Some people are making a decision between, do I buy a loaf of bread and feed the entire house? Or do I, just because you've given them a $4 prescription and all but they still, but bread has gone up.
Right.
And if they want a little wheat bread, it might be $2.98 for the loaf. So you talked about parenting and you talked about poverty and how we've got to meet all these things because, we're not even talking about crime right now. No. But those things are part of why these children are constantly going back into the system, because if I'm still hungry, I might steal again.
Right.
So that I can feed myself.
Right. So, okay, let me see. So the question is about parenting. How can we bring all those things?
How can we give parents those resources? And I guess I didn't ask the question, but how can we give parents those resources so my son isn't saying, well, you know what, I'm frustrated with my mom working, but not being able to provide for me what I need, or my dad hustling, but I see my dad crushed all the time. Right. So I'm going to do it myself.
Right.
So how do we bring the family unit back together? What do I need to say to this mother? What can I say? Because, she's just like, especially, we see it all the time in church. Pastor, I thank you for the word, but this is my reality.
I think at the end of the day, and there's no in between that, I think at the end of the day, we have to get back into the community. We have to literally, even at the point where, are we still recording?
Yes.
Okay, it jumped into your screen with just Dr. B. But so I think at the end of the day, I believe that we need to get back into the community, and the churches. If the churches are inside of these communities, and maybe those resources, and this is my suggestion, I can't tell anyone how to run their church, but the church has to actually offer those resources there, because that's something that we see most in the communities. That's pretty much only things that we have left within our communities. Our community centers are gone. they're shut down. If they're not shut down, I mean, you see swings without swings, you know? So it's like there's no centers within those communities, but you have to actually get out there. My grandmother was one person in her community in the Lakeside area. She fed people, and everybody know if you go to Miss Irma's house, you're gonna eat. If you're hungry, Miss Irma's gonna feed you. And my grandmother had 8 kids and a host of grandkids. But anyone came there, they were gonna eat. She would sell things out her back door. She would give things out her back door. So it's just like we have to offer those services. Like with me, I'm gonna tell you this school year with the pandemic, I know how hard it was for my son. I actually reached out to the principal, to Crystal Barnes, Principal Barnes at BT, and I was like, hey, because I was a teen mother, and I was like, hey, Crystal, who are all the parents, the teen, who are the students in your who are graduating who have kids? Can I get their contact information? I want to give them a gift. So I reached out to her, and I gave each one of those kids that she gave me their contact information. I gave them a gift, and I gave them a gift card, and I let them know, hey, I'm here if you need me. If you need any assistance in what direction you need to go after this. I mean, and a lot of them know my son because he actually started middle school when it was a middle school at BT. So some of them knew my son. So I was just like, I'm here. I know what you're going through. I have been shunned because I was a parent, but I'm here to let you know, despite what your present, that does not dictate your future. So in saying that, you have to go in. You can't say that you have resources for people and you're not actually going out there to find them. You have to find them. You have to touch them, and you have to let them know that you've been there. And you know, my family went through a struggle. You don't make them feel like they're a charity case. You let them know, hey, I've been where you were at. You know what I'm saying? I've been the person that was called, that was shunned, or didn't think that I graduated top of my class, even with my child and everything else. But I had a community behind me that supported me. So I felt that I needed to give those kids something, because a lot of them they didn't know. I had one kid call me and was like, hey, I don't even have the money to pay my dues, my fees to graduate. And I paid that for him. You know, I went, so in saying that, yeah, they don't have the resources and the child needs. So if you have an organization, get out there, get to those. And some people don't want to go to the churches. Maybe you need to just get the word out. Social media, that's one thing. Everybody has a phone. And one thing I know for sure with BT, they post everything. You just have to post. You have to let it be known that you're here to help. And that's the only way. We have to, just like you said, we have to take that technology and use it for our benefit. So if you have something that you want to give, and you have something that you want someone to have, you have to put it out there to let them know that it's available.
We have to be resources.
Yes.
I think whatever we believe, and everybody knows what that is for me, but whatever we believe, wherever your source is, it should be such that if you're going to humble yourself and submit to it, that you can be a resource of the source. Right. And so I totally agree that we have to have programming in place. We have to have just as much, you know, when the preaching is over and the benediction is given, that's when everything begins for the church. And I often say that, you know, the benediction is not, oh, let's go home and let's chill out. But when I'm talking from the point of the church, not beating up on the church, but I'm talking because that's who I am. But even in other organizations, we're members of Alpha Kappa Alpha, and everybody will look and they'll say things like, and I love to all Pan-Hellenic brothers and sisters who are tuning in. Yes. I thank God for you tuning in. And you know, you got the pretty girls, you got the Delta divas, you got this and you got that. But at the end of the day, we're service organizations. Exactly. And so we want to make sure that the people out there who are doing pretty bad, as you and I were talking about, that we can make a difference in their lives. And you can't make a difference if you're not willing to do something different. And so, you know, we can't just go and identify problems. If identifying problems is maybe 5% of it, when this person needs so much more. So I love what you're talking about when you talk about going and actually doing the work. If I see this person, well, I don't have $50, but I can give you 25. And maybe somebody down the street can give you 5, and somebody over here can give you 10, and then somebody else can give you, 250, and then you got 750. You got your $50 right there.
Right.
Whatever you started out, but it's such as I have, it's what the scripture talks about, such as I have. And so we want to make sure that we see those needs. You talked about programming, and I'm looking here at a few things. Programming, diversion programs, which direct children back to where they need to be in the juvenile justice system, are very important to stop that recidivism. I know a couple of years ago, I had a child that was progressing. I think I started working with him at 8 years old, and then he progressed into puberty. And so not having another man in the house, not knowing how to handle what was happening on the inside of him, and he was becoming more aggressive because of his hormones. Right. I searched and I searched and I searched for a place for this young man to go. I needed help with him, and his family needed help desperately. And so we saw those multi-system programs that were, to deal with the mother and to tell the mother, this is how you need to do this, but you can't deal with who's absent. And so if the father's not in the house, you can't deal with him. And that's the piece, that's the trigger. Or right. If the mother's absent and she's not there, so it's, we need mentors. We need people right. who can step up to their plate and do as you've done and say, look, and vulnerability. That's something that I've always loved about you, is your level of vulnerability, to be able to say to a girl, look, I was a young mother just like you, but look at what has happened in my life. I had to work for it. You can do it. I'm here to show you those steps. So being able to talk about your journey, and that's what the buzz is, getting us to that place. I want to give just a little bit more information, and then we need to talk real good about your book without telling people, because they got to buy the book.
Yes.
But while I'm looking at this, go ahead and tell them how they can get the book, and we'll mention it here again.
Okay, you can actually get the book on my website, dramoore.com. It'll take you directly to Amazon. The Amazon link is where you can order the paperback copy. But on the website, you can actually order the hard copy. And if you order a hard copy, I will actually sign the book before I ship them out. So the books are the hard copy. You will have to order it from my website. So you will go down to my products, which I have other books that you can also get, and those are ebooks. But you order the hard copy book from on my products, and if you click on the link, you're ordering the paperback copy, and that's shipped through Amazon. But if you order from the website, dramoore.com, and you can order the book there. It'll take you directly there. Simple, easy to get to, easy website to remember. And also, you guys, when you order the book on Amazon, please be sure to leave a review for the book. That's something that a lot of us aren't doing when it comes to purchasing books from our people. The reviews matter. So please put the reviews on there, so it'll show that the books are being purchased, because people are purchasing the books, but there's a lack of reviews, and that's what Amazon needs when it comes down to pushing the book, because they're selling the books through the paperback copies. But if you want to buy the hard copy with my signature in there, my autograph, you can order it from my website, and I'll mail that out directly to you. And that's on the website at dramoore.com, and go down to products.
Well, Dr. Moore, we've talked about intervention versus incarceration. And of course, it's crystal clear that we need more people. And let me say this, you don't have to have, I think sometimes people think they have to be educated to do something.
No,
and you don't. You absolutely don't have to be, you don't have to have a title, or you just have to have a heart. And,
Right.
and we need everything that we can do. Of course, if you have a platform, by all means, take your platform and do with your platform what you can. I was looking at the numbers today, $424 a day in the state of Louisiana, $424 a day for a child to be in a juvenile prison. Nearly 1,000 youth are held in Louisiana's juvenile prisons each year. So when I do the math on that, that's $154,760,000 per year.
Per year. Woo.
Per year for having 1,000 children at least. So $424 a day. And I'm sure to educate a child. So we're looking at the cost of education for a child versus the cost of imprisonment. And the system, we've got to change it. And I want to encourage you to change it on November 3rd with your vote. A lot of people say that voting doesn't matter, but let me tell you on the Buzz, we believe that your vote does matter and it's your voice.
I agree.
We've got to talk about mental health in our community.
Yes.
We, just over the weekend in Louisiana, North Louisiana, there was a shooting that ended very deadly. A police officer and a young man that is stated that they knew that he had mental illness. He suffered mental illness, but he's dead. He's dead tonight. And that cannot continue to be the narrative that we're hearing. So we have to address mental illness. High quality education, making sure that our children are able to gain a high quality education. We've got to look at behaviors and we've got to understand, we've got to provide behavioral support.
Right.
So we talked about that just a little bit earlier. We talked about if this boy is acting out, maybe I need to put I need to figure out, I don't believe I have any place in the classroom if I can't at least take some time. And I'm not saying that I'm not getting on teachers. And let me say that I've been in the classroom was one of my first jobs. So, but just to constantly refer that child out, referral after referral after referral. When do we stop?
And it's crazy that you said that. It just brought back my first experience teaching when I moved to Houston. I had, I was working at a charter school. And so, charter schools basically work off of numbers. And so at the charter school, I was teaching a 4th grade class. And every one of the students that they placed in my class, because the other teachers, 4th grade teachers, wanted the higher level kids so they could pass the test, so they can get these big checks from them passing. So in saying that, I had to lower I don't want to say slower, but I had the lower level class in the whole 4th grade. And there was about 5 classes. And so many of my students failed the 4th grade. I had one student that failed the 4th grade for her 4th time. And so in saying that, all of my students, because I loved them and they knew that I cared about them, and Miss Moore at the time, they would be like, Miss Moore, I love you, because they would, if I wasn't there and my sweater was there, they would be wearing my sweater. And so, because they just wanted to know that I was there. But when they took the test, I kid you not, every last one of those kids who have failed more than once passed the text test in Texas. So it's not that you have to do anything extraordinary for a child to learn and grow and develop. All you have to do is show them that you love them and you care. That's just a part of being a parent and just teaching. People move more from love than they'll move from you're trying to tear them down and beat them down and discipline them. Even though some people can work from that type of energy, but you're going to, at the end of the day, you're going to get the wrong result. But if you move out of love and show those children love and show those kids that someone actually believes in you, it'll start a fire within them that will never be put out. It'll never, no matter what someone does to them, because one person showed them love in the education system, they're going to develop and grow and be better and greater. And trust me, they'll remember you forever. And all it takes is to show a little love. Show a little love. Those aren't your kids. Just show a little love and compassion, especially for little kids. I deal with young adults. So, you can do that for a child.
It's amazing to me, before we move on, it's amazing to me that you talked about being a fourth grade teacher, because that's that age where we start to see that pipeline being made. We start to look at how many little boys we have in third grade and fourth grade, and how many however many you have in the classroom. We've heard it said before, you can pretty much predict how many jail cells you're going to have. It's also stated that 25% of juvenile arrests begin in the classroom. That's a problem. That's a problem. And so we want to make sure that as educators and as pastors, as leaders, as mentors, that we're changing that narrative. I want to talk about the book because I keep saying I want to talk about the book, but the cape, very symbolic. So the cape reminds me of ability. When you were talking about how your son strutted around in the cape, but I think that cape made him feel like I have the ability to do something that is phenomenal. We see this cape, and even me now, I feel like if I have a cape, I can fly. So it gives you that ability to think. And so we talk about that crown. So he's crowned with confidence. So I think Ephesians 6 talks about putting on the whole armor of God. When we clothe ourselves in wisdom, when we clothe ourselves in knowledge, whatever your affirmation, my last guest, Mr. Patrick Brown, talked about that. He talked about making an affirmation every day. Yes. So, Croc, I want to talk about Croc. Croc started talking. When Croc started talking, we see there the usefulness of everyday things that are around us that we thought nothing about, that we just had it laying around. But when Croc started talking, can y'all believe that? I mean, you got to get a cartoon. I'll watch the cartoon because it spoke to my heart. It really spoke to me. I was like, you know what? To me, that means that whatever is lying around, I have got to end the pandemic, because the pandemic will make you do that. Look around and see, look for usefulness and things that you just thought were not there. I have found so many useful ways of doing things. For all of those out there who you want to use this in your Sunday school class or something like that, you can. 4:2 talks about, it says, and the Lord asked Moses, what's in your hand? At that time, Moses had a staff or a rod in his hand. And as soon as he put it on the ground, and I love talking about Moses here because we call him the Prince of Egypt. Yes. So when he put it on the ground, it became a snake. And so he began to run from it. Right. And I think this book made it a little bit more alive to me as a spiritual leader, because when the rod was back in Moses's hand, it was a rod again. It was something that he could use. Yes. So we have to learn that when we grab a hold of what we have, and when it's in our hands, because of the power we have, the confidence, the ability that we have, it's useful. Right. And so as an educator, have you had to be that creative with a child who maybe felt like they didn't have something that some other child had? And have you had to open up some child's eye and say, hey, look at what you've got?
As an educator, yes. I mean, that in that fourth grade class, I did it then. I do it in my classroom as, teaching young adults. Sometimes you have to meet them where they're at, and sometimes you gotta, hey, meet me I need to see you in the office, so we can talk, and you have to encourage them and let them know that, hey, I'm here. Or we'll sit down and have real life talks. I love, in my classroom, everyone knows in my class on Fridays, I would give a quiz on current events. And so with the current events, I switched from even giving them a quiz on current events, because I wanted them to be knowledgeable of what's going on in the system, because so many times when we're in college, we don't pay attention to what's going on with the news. So how are you going to be you're going to specialize in a field when you don't know anything about your particular field and what's going on currently in your field. So I always would have a current event quiz, or I would have the kids find out something, read on something that's going on currently in that particular, that deals with that particular course. And so that allows for conversation. And that allows for them to open up, and that allows for them to take a hold of the class, and we have real life discussions and discuss what's going on with them. And so they can see, and that brings about conversations of what's going on with them, or what may be their weakness, or where they may feel that they're neglecting in, or you might have those that don't show up to class because they have other issues, and you have those. So it always allowed a space for my students to come in and talk, and I could find out what they needed. And if they didn't feel comfortable in the classroom discussing it with me in the classroom, in that setting, my door to my office was always open. I love my students. They could come in.
That's your heart.
Yeah, that really is. That really is. Because I was once that student, not knowing what was going on with me, but I had people that loved me enough that I didn't have to like hide or be anything different. I could be myself, but I had my family was such a tight knit with my family and my friends that protected me. And I noticed that it's a lot of kids that don't have people that's going to protect them and love them unconditionally. And so the love that they gave me that was unconditional allowed me to be me. And so I knew I had to give that to those who didn't have it.
And with these conversations, you're giving them an opportunity to express themselves.
Yes.
And you give them some ownership. And in that, there's a value of being me that those children walk away with. And you were talking about, so you gave them the permission. Exactly. You gave them permission to be who they are in the world. You know, and I think that that gets rid of jealousy. When I know that I can just be me and there's no competition to be me. No. I don't have to be jealous of anybody else. Now I have that ability to compliment you. I have the ability to celebrate you.
Right.
I absolutely love it. About building confidence while diminishing fear. Your book talks about that. It talks about building confidence while diminishing fear. Your son stands there and he says, with his cape on, he says, "I'm King Kemet, and I can do all things because of the king in me." I just love it. Philippians 4:13 says, "I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me." And it goes on to say, "I am self-sufficient in Christ's sufficiency. I am ready for anything and equal to anything through him who infuses me with inner strength and confident peace." And when I see him standing there and he's looking and he muscles up and he's like, I'm a king. I can do anything. And he just struts his stuff. I think our children need to know that early on. And that's the value that we see here. And so he's looking in the mirror and he sees himself and he's saying, "Hey, this is who I am."
Right.
What do you think about affirmations? What do you think about us standing in the mirror? Every day I get up, I say, "This is the day that the Lord has made." And I point at myself and tell myself, I want to rejoice, because every day I get up, I'm not always happy.
Right.
I would much rather not be a morning person, but I mean, for some reason, not being a morning person, I guess I am by force. So I have to say something affirmative. Do you have affirmations? What do you think about affirmations?
I love affirmations. I'm a journaler. My best friend, she got this one made for me. I have several. I would hate to go back and read some of them. But I know that they are the reason why I'm where I'm at now. But affirmations are the reason why I'm I'm where I'm at. Affirmations is the reason why I am currently Dr. Adrienne Nicole Moore, because I had to affirm with myself that I could do this.
Yes, Lord.
Yes, I had to affirm
Yes.
to myself and with myself that I would not let anything destroy me, defeat me, or make me feel like I was less or that I did not belong in a place where I know I worked hard to be at.
Absolutely.
Because that's one thing about school. It's just like, I'm not going to say that, but it breaks you down to build you up, even though you're building yourself up. You know, you have to get approval from others to say that you belong there. And you know, and sometimes that can mentally break you down. And I had to turn into a whole nother person in order to get where I was and where I am today. So in saying that, affirmations were something that I needed every day. I needed it. And especially even with being a parent, not only was I working, you know, to graduate and complete and earn my PhD. And I said, earn my PhD. I had my son who was in school, and my son was not with me. My son was in DC. He went to Howard. So that was something that I was afraid of, you know, and making sure that, okay, Lord, I hope that I put enough in him that he can make it. And he did outstanding, you know. And so that's another, you know, so it's just so many things you have to make affirmations. I make affirmations not just for myself, I make them for my children, I make them for my partner, I make them for my sisters, my dad, my family, you know. So you know, it's not just because whatever you do, it doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you.
Everyone around you.
Right. So I have to make sure that what I'm affirming and asking for, that it connects with everything around me, because you'll get exactly what you're asking for. It might not come when you want it, but you'll get it. But that might not have been what you needed. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely believe in affirmations. That's something I live by. That's something that I know that we need. And I know that it's something, you know, that's something that we've gotten from our ancestors. That's something, you know, you got to call on everything in order for us to make it and to be and survive and exist, especially with what's going on. Affirmations, I definitely feel it. I believe in it. I do it. And I had to tell my best friend today, I said, I need to start writing my affirmations down again instead of just saying them, because I want them to manifest. They have to happen. They have to happen. So yeah, I definitely believe in it.
Absolutely. Again, Patrick Brown gave a great segue into this conversation. He was talking about when he was a child, that he talked about the power of affirmation and how, you know, it was a girl when he was 5 years old that he wanted that girl. So he started making affirmations at 5, telling himself, I am going to get this girl. But, you know, whatever it is at whatever age, I think we have to start teaching our children when they start talking. They have to learn affirmations.
Yes.
He talked about how he would leave home, he would leave school, go home, and you know, at that time, his family couldn't travel outside, you know, the borders of the state. But he talked about how he would pick up the encyclopedia and he'd go, and believe it or not, he'd go to Egypt. And he says, you know, as a little boy, I would just go to Egypt because I read a book, and I just believe that some little child is going to get out of a trap. Some child is going to be able to escape just for a minute and appropriately with their creativity. And you really wet them. You give them a taste. You give them an appetite that increases their imagination in such an appropriate manner. You hit home with a point in the book. You talk about, you know, when he starts to say, I'm King Kemet and I can do anything. You know, faith without works is dead. We see that in the Word of God. And so you talk about doing something. You talked about how you went into your community, you went back to your high school, and you said, I am here. You made the contact with the principal, and you said to her, who? Find me someone.
Right.
And I think we have to understand that we have to put the activity back to our conversation. if that
Right.
makes sense. We've got to make sure that our conversation is not remaining in the noun form, but is very active, and
Right.
that we're going about in our community. We're doing what needs to be done. No more photo ops where we haven't worked,
Right.
but
Right.
for real doing the work.
Right.
And
Right.
then, yeah, I really love that about you. Um, a magic portal opened up to Croc in the book.
Yes.
So after your son in the book makes his affirmation and he stands up and he says who he is, I thought it was interesting that this portal, the way, I don't know if you knew when you were writing this how the systematic order of things was so wonderful for me as an adult. Um, he makes an affirmation and now this portal opens up to him. And you just talked about it so clear that when we start to affirm, it's going to happen.
Right.
So this door opens up to him. And for me, it spoke to me and it says, I need to know who I am. Opportunity is going to be right there. And often it's right there. It's just that I haven't tapped into it.
Right.
When we know who we are, doors are going to open for us.
Right.
Those are so thematic for me. Croc became real to him. And things that were seemingly animated now are reality for Kemet in the book.
Yes.
Now, that point, I mean, that part right there really, that's solid. Because what it says is you not only gave the children the ability to dream, but you're in that moment telling them that your dream can become a reality because Croc is here. Croc is animated. He's just a stuffed animal. But in the imagination of this child, he becomes alive. He becomes, and eventually, I hope you write these books for years and your son grows up and we see him grow up.
I do.
All this is going to become a reality for him.
I do plan on it. And I have, so speaking of Bill Cosby, I have just so many visions. I mean, you remember Picture Page?
Picture Page.
I want to do something just like Picture Page. I love Bill Cosby, and it's crazy. Bill Cosby lived in Belchertown, which was the town right behind Amherst. So we would see him passing through in his limousine sometimes if we were on campus. And when we lived in Massachusetts, we would see him all the time, like driving through. And I don't know if they replaced the name, sad to say, but the welcoming box when you first came into UMass, it was named after him. But I love Camille and Bill. I love them. And so I always said I want to grow old and look like Camille Cosby. I love that lady. So, but I want Bill Cosby made such an impact on our lives and we take it for granted. Fat Albert, Picture Page, The Cosby Show, A Different World. I mean, even the detective show he was in the 70s. He's an amazing man. And I'm just like, I see this book just like I can be just like Bill Cosby. I want to be like Cos.
I don't think it was by happenstance, but I do think it was by circumstance that you were there and that you got to see him passing by, that you were there at UMass and that you see all these things. I believe that those were divinely ordered for you.
Right.
And I believe that and that's just the legacy that we were talking about earlier.
Right.
That, you know, of course, Bill Cosby is not going to do these things forever, but why do they have to stop being?
They shouldn't stop. When
there's an Adrienne Moore.
Right.
Absolutely.
They should never stop. And I mean, I think, and I charge myself with that. I'm like, you're gonna do it. It's gonna happen. It's definitely going to manifest. Just like you were saying, the cartoons, there's so much that me and my family want to do with these books with Kemet and just for family. So I see so much happening with this. Just like you said, it was a vision that I told myself I have to manifest. I have to make it manifest. I need to go ahead and take the steps and do it. And I've even had people contact me, was like, can you help me write my book? I have a book. And I'm just like, wow. I'm like, I don't know what to say. I'm like, yes, but I'm like, it's a lot of work, you know, but you can do it. And I mean, and maybe that's what, you know, our God is ordained me to do to help them too, but not forget about what I need to do for myself and what my passion and what I want to do with this. I have always been passionate about giving back and being there for people who are in need and who have gone through something. I'm just like you, girl. Dr. B, I feel that we have to, I mean, I want to pass the torch. I don't want to hold it. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to hold it. And I feel that a lot of, just like you said, a lot of our elders, they're holding on to it instead of like taking our hand and like, let me show you what you need to do. And I want to be that person that can help pass the torch on, because I used to tell my students all the time, if y'all got to take care of me, I'm gonna have to work forever. So I knew that, and I did say this, and they can attest to this. I would say this all the time. So I'd be like, God, could y'all use your common sense sometimes? But me saying that would make them work harder and would make them step up to the plate, because they knew it came from a place of love, and let them know, hey, you got to do better. You got
There's a power in love.
Yes, it's a power in love. That's the greatest gift.
Yes.
People can say whatever they want, but when you have love behind what you're doing, oh my God, it's a beautiful thing.
And that's why it's so politicized. That's why it's so debated, because the enemy does not want us to know its power. But if we just go ahead and use it,
right?
I mean, how powerful is that?
Oh my God.
I mean, everything that we're going through right now in our world, if we would love appropriately, we wouldn't have a problem.
We wouldn't have a problem at all.
Well, as we wrap up here, you gave a lot of history here in the book. I mean, I'm like, oh, really? That happened. I mean, lots of history that's in the book. So it's like a little bit of a history book. Family, we see his brothers back in the book. I mean, I just absolutely cannot tell you enough. You've already talked about the hieroglyphics and how we can play around with that. Yes. You know, you left the book. You left the book at a place that it wasn't a cliffhanger, but it did leave us wanting to know what's coming up next. You gave us just a little bit. It's enough. I think that what you did here as far as the name really helped me out a lot. Ethnicity. I just read an article the other day where a lady said that she'd gone home and she'd asked her mom, can we change my name? And she said, why? And she's like, nobody knows how to say it. I always make it a point to learn people's entire name if I can, and to say it the way that it needs to be said, the way that they are comfortable with me saying that name. I think that's honor to people.
Yes, it is.
And I think it's, whether I get it right or wrong, the fact that I'm trying, I think it's just honorable. Yes. And I think that you have really pulled us back to center focus. And you really, I think there's not a child who will read this, or even their parent. As you can see, adults can be helped by the book. I love that. But one of the things I want to appreciate you for is being a storyteller.
Thank you.
With the pandemic, a lot of our storytellers are dying. We've seen full families die at one time. So I want to give a clarion call to everybody that it's important that we tell our story. So I was asking Dr. Moore, why did she write the book? And she was sharing with me, she wanted to leave a legacy for her sons. Kind of talk about that. And before, as we prepare to wrap up, give us some encouraging words. And don't forget, I told you, we got to know how to get the book. We want to hear that one more time. I know you've mentioned it already, but just in case we've had some people to join us since then, just kind of wrap us up here.
All right. Well, I wrote this book because I felt that there was a need for self-pride, and we also need to leave a legacy for our kids and our family. And I'm kind of tired of other people telling our stories. I'm not even I'm tired of other people telling our stories. And I wanted to tell our story myself. And so the purpose of this book was to leave a legacy for my boys, to let them know and to make a mark and let them know that you were here, you are loved, and there's something that will be even for your kids and your grandkids and your kids' kids. it's always going to be something there to show that you were here, and you mean something. And so that was my purpose of writing this book. And I just thought that it's important that we share our own stories and tell our own stories. We are a group of people who are originally griots. We told our own stories and we passed the torch to the younger generation so they can continue on telling the story, being griots. And so I'm trying to get back to being griots again and telling our stories, and the importance of being family oriented, and the importance of knowing who you are as a people. So you can find The Adventures of Kemet, Croc, and his Cape at my website, Dr. A. Moore, DrAmore.com. And you can buy the soft copy. You can click on the link and it'll take you directly to Amazon to order the paperback copy. Or you can scroll down in order to go to the store where my products are sold, and you can buy the hard copy, which I will sign and ship to you myself. So that's the story behind Kemet, Croc, and his Cape. I just felt that it was something that needed to be done. And, like they say, Black boy joy, all Black kids joy. I want to see everybody smile and be happy, because I thought this was a story that needed to be told. And there will be many more stories to come. Please be on the lookout for Kemet and Croc, because they have some more stories to tell.
I mean, just so much I could say about you in this book, but you are modeling, because those are things that we need. We can tell people what they need to do, but sometimes until it's modeled before them. And that's another thing that I love is that, and for the church who's listening, God knew that we needed a model, so he sent Jesus, and there's nothing, so we need models. I mean, we have to have people who can be role models.
Thank you.
One of the things that I'd done a blog before, a podcast, and it was talking about my ancestors. One day I was driving along and I was thinking about, why do I like classical music? Where did that come from? Or why do I like this? And all of the things I realized I am them.
Yes.
And that makes me so beautiful, because when I started to really grasp the fact that I am the most beautiful parts of the folks who poured into me, I can't help but to be beautiful. So on that rough day, I can look at myself and I can say, girl, you beautiful, because it's something on the inside. And so we have to pour that which is beautiful inside of our sons, inside of our daughters. You leave your sons such a great legacy that they share with the world in these books. But I'm going to ask you all to get the hard copy if you can, but not get the book just because I'm asking you to get the hard copy. But the reason I say get that hard copy, because I believe that you're going to want to be one of those folks who's like my mom later on, that you have one of the first copies and you want to preserve your copy for years to come. And we have a tradition in my family. We keep all of the books and we pass them down to the generations. And so this is one of those books, I promise you, you will not be disappointed. You want to purchase the book. You want to purchase the book. And so I want to make sure that I give away 20 copies of your book. So I want to give away 20 copies of your book.
Thank you.
The Buzz is going to be purchasing 20 copies, and I need y'all to match me out there. And so I need somebody to match me out there. I want you at your level. We have to support what is uniquely ours. And so, we talked a lot about Egypt. We talked about being African American and so on, and we talked about our ancestors. But also, I want to encourage all other ethnicities of people who I believe are listening to us and are going to listen to us to get this book, because we have read everybody else's narrative before and they got to write their story. We're writing our story now. And let me tell you, if you want to write our story, we got a guide for you to start writing our story. And so it's a great way for you. Maybe if you want to, in this time where we've had so much racial tension, if you want to have a guide to help your child as you're teaching them, This is a way to go so that they can learn history and what African American people have contributed. Dr. Moore, I am so grateful that we have spent this evening together.
Yes, I have enjoyed it.
I gotta have you back so we can talk about that, bridging that gap between oppression and opportunity.
Definitely.
And so I have thoroughly enjoyed myself. To everybody who has been a part on this evening, I want you to go to dramore.com, dramore.com. There is so much to tell about this lady. Thank you for tuning in on this evening. This has been The Buzz. This has been The Buzz. Tell them bye.
Bye, y'all. Good night. Thank you so much.
And so she has a Facebook page.
Yes.
Dr. Adrienne Moore, follow her on Instagram. Tell us where we can follow you at.
Follow me on Instagram at Dr. Adrienne Moore. And you can follow me, you can follow me on Facebook, like she said. It's also Dr. Adrienne Moore. And check me out. And I got some other things in store too. I'm trying to branch out and get from beside myself. So thank you so much.
Very modest, very humble. But I'm telling you, I told y'all when I started this out, she's a dope sister. This is my sister, Dr. Adrienne Moore. And I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed. I am so grateful for each of you tuning in. And so we know what, get that Christmas book. Go ahead. You want to put this as a stocking stuffer. You want that, you got that birthday coming up. Look, you need someone.
Put them in the libraries. Put them in your local libraries.
Put them in your local library. That's very important. We want to make sure that these are logged in the local library. So thank you for tuning in. This has been The Buzz with Dr. B.
Good night. Thank you.